We'll wait a couple more minutes so people. I'd like to welcome everyone here. I know we hope to have a face-to-face meeting this year, but or this month. It's not going to happen, obviously, because we're here. Just a note for August, the board met and we voted to not have the picnic this year in August. I'm hoping maybe in September we can have a face-to-face meeting. I really do. And maybe we can have one in August, but it's not going to be the picnic. Just going to have to see how things go. Just a couple other things. If you're out there working with your bees this week, be careful. The heat is miserable out there. It doesn't take much to get overheated. You get busy and all of a sudden, like, you're soaked. And if for new beekeepers, if you've got a standard, regular, heavy cotton beekeeping suit, you'll find out why most of us have switched to the ventilated suits. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm going to turn it over to our Vice President, Eric, and let him introduce our program for today. And good luck to everyone. Eric, it's up to you.
Thanks, Phil. Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday. Can you hear me okay? I'm having some internet connectivity issues. Okay, great. So we've got a good program for you today. Janice and Tom Britz are going to be speaking with us about extracting honey, and then they're also going to be talking to us about, they're going to talk a little bit about pulling honey from supers, how they like to do it, and also about marketing your honey and selling it. So Janice and Tom have been keeping bees for north of 10 years now, I believe, and they've been extremely active in the association for quite some time. I don't actually know how long you guys have been, or excuse me, how many colonies you're currently keeping, Janice?
We have 40.
40.
About 40, I think.
Okay, great.
Yeah. We just started 6, maybe 6, so hopefully 46 pretty soon.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So this is gonna, my understanding is that the Britzes are gonna gear this more towards the beginner groups, but hopefully, I think that.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. The more advanced hobbyists are also probably gonna.
You're breaking up, Eric.
Okay, sorry. Well, I'll just without further ado, I'll hand the microphone over to Janice. You want to take it away?
Okay. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Thank you.
Can you hear us? Okay, I'm going to assume that you said great. So is it okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. We're just having trouble with Eric then. Just want to welcome you guys to our home. We're basically doing this from our home, and it's been a bad year for 2020, but it's been a great year for beekeeping, and so it's been fun. It's one of the more enjoyable years that we've ever had. We've been doing it about 11 years, and like I said, we have 40 hives. We have 80 acres down in Drexel, Missouri, in Bates County, and we have a majority of our hives are down there, but we live between the peculiar Harrisonville, Freeman area. So here in Cass County, we're right on the border of Kansas and Missouri, and we have hives here, and we've had really a good harvest this year with the early spring forage like black locust, and so we've gotten some of that light honey like a lot of you have. I've been seeing pictures posted, so I've seen we got some of that honey too, and it's just been so excited. I think you can see that we decided that this is where we would do our extracting. When we started out, we've done it in the garage, and I think we've done some maybe in the kitchen, but we found out that this area here was what works best for us. We have, of course, we have a counter. We set up the table, and we got a new extractor last year from the field, and what we do to bring down the moisture. We also have, we'll talk about that in a minute, a little bit more. We also have an outside entrance. So it's easy to get outside, and we have storage area. We already have a tile floor, and I will tell you that, a disadvantage of extracting honey is that you're going to have honey everywhere. You've got it on the bottoms of your shoes, you've got it on your hands, your doorknobs, everything, but it cleans up, if you do it, and it's only about a month or two out of the year, so it's well worth it. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom. We are, as I said, we're just outside of Harrisonville and Peculiar and Pleasant and Freeman, and we don't really have good internet connection out in the apiary, so we are just going to show you inside here what we do to take off the super from the hive. And so I would like, I know whether there may be some out there, but for today, for this purposes, we're just going to demonstrate in here where it's nice and cool. So Tom, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, what I'm going to talk about is how you get your honey off. What we do first thing in the early part of the year is we'll come up to a hive and avoid using smoke, and then I'll just remove the cover. And what we do, of course, with bees everywhere, you always want to work your bees very gently. But what I might do is reach in and pull out a frame of honey, and it'll have bees all over it, of course. And I'll shake that frame just like that. And then after I shake it, I will brush them off with my brush. I don't have my brush with me right now. And we're talking just capped frames that we would do this to early in the year. Then once we get this pretty much all the bees brushed off of it, we'll put it in another hive body or a super and put it in there, and then we go get another one and do the same thing until we get all the capped honey. And of course, once we take a frame of capped honey, we'll preferably put back a frame of drawn comb. If not, we'll do foundation, depending on how early it is in the year. Another method that you can use, and Gracie's going to bring me my fume board. This is a fume board actually I made up yesterday. And this is just a black piece of felt. And then this is just the wooden top on it I made. But when you do it, you don't want to spray too much of your bee repellent. This is just water that we're spraying in here today. But you want to spray kind of an S pattern on there. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. You spray your repellent on there. And then simply what you'll do with your bees is you'll set this on there for up to about 10 minutes at the most. Then you'll just let that vapor circulate in that colony, and that'll drive the bees down and out. And then of course you can check. If you don't have very many bees in there, you can go ahead and take this off. Or if you feel like you still got quite a few bees, put it on for a couple more minutes. But it typically works really good to drive your bees out. So we do that method sometimes. But what I've been doing a lot lately, and it works pretty darn good too, is I just pick a hive up like that. And then this is an old blower. This is really not the one we use. But I would simply just blow the bees out. No more air than you have to. And it works about as good as anything, in my opinion. And I've never seen a dead bee. It seems to work really, really well. They come out with some cordless leaf blowers that are pretty lightweight. Something like that is pretty bulky, and it really takes two people to do it. But it works. It works pretty good, and we just you're gonna, when you go back your honey to your harvest house, your honey house, or whatever you want to call it, you're gonna have a few bees in your super. You can't avoid that, but.
Muted. I can't hear anybody.
You guys are muted. There we
Sorry.
go. Gotcha.
Sorry. Okay, you're
Am I
good. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was
But
me.
what you do is just go in there and get you a little bit of honey on your. A toothpick works pretty good, and then I simply put this honey on there and close it up. I'll just tell you, this honey's about 15.5% or so. We tested it a while ago, and then just hold it up to a light source and check it out, and it hadn't changed much. It's about 15.5%. So one thing I did learn recently from a very experienced beekeeper of ours, Stuart Dietz, is that Missouri State Fair will dock points for anything less than 16, and Stuart doesn't really understand why, because having a lower moisture content does not affect the quality of honey one bit. So he's not really sure why they would knock points down for excess, or not excess, but below 16% moisture. Now we all know that when you first get your honey, it could be as high as 21-22%. Anything over 18, they tell me it could ferment very, very quickly. So that's why we want it below 18.
Why don't you show them a little bit of how to calibrate, and then we'll show them how we bring the moisture down.
Okay. When you're calibrating this, I used olive oil on this. I simply went to the internet. This is extra virgin olive oil, pure, 100% authentic. And this particular extractor has two scales. It has the Britz scale and the percent scale. And extra virgin olive oil should test about 27% moisture, calibrate at 27%, or 73.1, I believe it is, on the Britz scale. And I did this yesterday. It was just a little bit off. I put the olive oil on there and let it set a minute or so and look through the prism. And there's an adjusting screw right here, a little bitty flat tip screwdriver that you want to get that adjusted correctly. Now, when you buy a refractometer, a lot of times it'll provide you with some oil that they'll send you for calibrating with honey, and it tells you, I can't remember the exact what it's supposed to read. I think 19 or something with that oil that they send. But there's different oils you can use, and to me, a lot of people swear by the electronic ones, but if you're calibrated right, and the prism's going to be about as good as anything, in my opinion. Anything else?
I want to talk about bringing moisture down.
We'll go around and show you a little bit more detail about our room. Now this is what we've done. We've insulated the roof with some blue foam board I had. And of course, that's the outside basement wall there. This is the closet we simply emptied out. And if you look at the supers over here, you can see what we do is we stack them up on a big cookie sheet down there and leave a little space in between them. Then we got a 20-inch fan on top. And we simply force that air down through there to circulate air. And this dehumidifier, we run it constantly. And with that running, it stays approximately 90 degrees in this room. And if we want a little more heat, you don't want to get it much more than 100. We can turn on that heater in the back. And then this is our buckets of honey. Show them
So far.
that we've had. We've sold quite a bit this year. We had a really good week last year, about $600, and we sold close to 400 this week. So at the two farmers markets and the store. So we're pretty happy this year.
Talk about a little bit about if they don't have a room like this, what they could do, like maybe just take a little area.
Oh, there's a lot of things. What we've done out here in the garage is I just took some big cardboard boxes one time and set them up, and you can put a light bulb in them. There's a lot of different things you can do to raise heat. If you just bring them into your air-conditioned basement and set a fan on them, it'll knock the moisture down over time. But we found this works the best for us. But I will tell you, if you're going to get the moisture down on your honey, do it with it while it's in the cone. Because when it's in a bucket, you can do it, but it takes a lot longer. We went as long as I think 10 days, probably at least, maybe 2 weeks getting moisture right. It's, this way you can get it down in a day or two. It'll go really good.
And just because a frame is capped, you generally you probably could know that would be okay, but we have had lots of capped frames that the moisture was at 19% or something like that. So
high as 21.
You should have a refractometer, and the club has one. So if you, or a lot of members have one, so you really should test your honey. Okay, I'll take over now. If you wanna.
Okay.
All right. All right, what I wanted to talk about now is some of the tools that I have found that I have liked the most. We've been doing this for about 11 years. I will say that the club has I think it's a 3-frame extractor, and they have a decapping tank, just about like this one, I believe. They have some tools, I think, and they have the strainers and things like that. So if you're just have a couple of frames, the club can really help you out. There's a small,
Hives.
All you got, if you have a couple of hives, then the club can help you out. There is a small fee for taking it, and the extractor and the decapping tank and such. But it really is a way that you can do that. We have done a lot of ways. When we first started, it takes a lot of money to get into this hobby, and especially if you're not selling honey, all that money is coming out of pocket. And so we have made up some things to make it work, but I have really enjoyed when we've gotten our decapping tank and things like that. Now we're a small business. We just sell at a couple of farmers markets, so we don't have the big automatic decapper and things like this. But this is what we do have, and let me show you the tools that I like to use. We just still use buckets. Are you showing? We still just have buckets, and I've gone to a bakery, just like Phil had talked about in the newsletter, and got the icing buckets, and those work really well for what we're doing. Some of them, I like to have some when, the final product, I like to have this spout on them, but I also, when we're just extracting, I like to have buckets without the spout, because that helps. Having a rubber mallet helps to get these lids on. Make sure you keep the right lid to the right bucket, because they're different a little bit, and it's kind of a pain if you have to go through and try to find what lid goes to it. Another thing, Tom doesn't have any trouble, but I do. I like to have one of these things. I don't know what it's called, but it just helps you lift up the lid if he's not with me. And a lot of times I extract by myself. So this helps me. After I've hammered it, I can't get it off. And so this little tool has been worth its weight in gold. So I like that. This little tool I've used a lot. This is after you have extracted and you have filtered it maybe once, and then you need this. We do a couple of filters, and this just fits down on a bucket like this. This is going to be your final bucket, one maybe with a spout, and I'll put it like this, and then another bucket sits right on top of that, and it drains into that, and that is really handy. You can walk away. You don't have to stand there and let it. And then plus you don't lose a lot of that honey. It gets down to almost all the honey you have. This is real handy for me because these little things get tight or sticky, and I can't get them open, so I like to have a pair of pliers. And the different kinds of filters that you can have. We've bought both sets. You can buy these individually, I noticed, but you can also buy them in a set, and they come at different microns. The coarse one is like at 600 microns, and then there's one even finer for 400, and the finest one, and it's really fine, that's at 200. And so that you can use those. I haven't really had any success in using them like 2 at a time. So for me, I've had to use them 1 at a time, and then we've had to pour it out and refilter. And heat is your friend. When you're working with honey and you're pouring it, if the honey is cool, then it's really hard to get through. You just can't get it through that fine 200 micron filter. This, I really kind of like this one the best coming out of the extractor. It's got a really coarse, I think I read that this was an 800 micron, and it's metal. This is all a fabric, but it's a metal mesh, and you put it, it's a two system kind of thing that will work on the bucket, and that fits in there. And I think this one is a 400 micron, and so you get actually two filters, but coming out of your extractor, you have a lot of wax particles and things. It's going to clog it up, and this top one really does catch all of that stuff. You have to, between buckets, you usually have to clean that off, but you get the real, you catch all the chunks, and then it gets even finer. And then for our operation, we will filter it yet another time, but this is the one that I really like the best. I've seen a lot of people, you can buy fabric, you can buy just different things like this. This is some fabric. I think it was probably 400 micron. I think this is supposed to fit into a bucket like this, you know, so you could decap into a bucket. And this is just a paint strainer that you can buy at a hardware store. And see, Tom, can you see the difference on the two? The paint strainer is not near as fine as this one that I bought. I think this one I would use a paint strainer if you're just doing the initial straining, and then use this later on. I don't, when I'm doing the decapping, I don't put a piece of cloth in here, one of these pieces of cloth, but I see a lot of people do. I just let it drain out this way. It takes, to get the wax out, it does take several days. Now we have had a heated kind of a knife thing.
A planer.
Planer, and I hated it. I actually hated it because it got hot and it smoked, and it was too hot, and I didn't like it. And then there was a lot of times a heated knife, you know, and I get along with just a plain old knife, and I don't heat this or anything. The worst thing I have with this is that it's always sticky on the handle, and I have to keep my water source, a water or a sink nearby, or a bucket, and lots of rags that you're always cleaning up the handle because you can't hardly handle it. But I just use this without heated or anything, and I really like it. I know some use a meat knife,
Electric
meat knife works well with that. I like to try to get everything off, and I'm going to show you how to do that with this knife, but sometimes you just can't. And so my next favorite thing is one of these roller things, because you can just roll it up and down. And what I like about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of debris. It just punctures the cells, and so you can get the honey out and do it pretty quickly too, but without a lot of debris. And then sometimes you can't do that around all the edges, or if the frame isn't, the capping isn't filled out very good, you have to use something like this. And this works perfect. The only thing I don't like about this, having to use this too often, is because there is a lot of debris, and I'm talking about wax cappings. And so you put that into your extractor, and then you're going to get a lot of wax cappings coming out. So these two seem to get it a lot cleaner if you can do that. I think that may be my decapping tank. I love my decapping tank. You want, if you use a bucket or some kind of something that you have, you need to have a sturdy piece of a board or something that you can rest your frame onto, and then it's handy to have a show you. That's what you use to sturdy it so you can cut. So I love my decapper. Next thing, I guess, is these commercial grade.
Well, can you hear us? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you still see?
Yeah, for a moment you cut out, but the video's back.
Okay. The last thing I'll say is that I like these commercial grade cake pans, I guess they are. We've had a few of these that's been in the auction that we've had. I've seen people bid, and you got to be careful. I just ordered a couple on Amazon this year again, and just make sure that it's the right size. You want it big enough for your super to get on, but it's really clean and neat, and it's just a good way to use. Okay, I think that's the tools. When you are putting your supers on, if you're brand new or have a whole
We lost you guys again. Dang it. Hang on a second. Sorry, folks.
don't try to zoom. Am I here?
Gotcha.
Okay. I don't know. I'm probably repeating myself. I don't know when I cut out. What I was saying is that if you have a brand new super and just with foundation in it, then you want to put 10 frames into that super because of the foundation, and that's what you need to do to get evenly spaced comb drawn onto those frames. But if you have drawn comb, I prefer to put 9 frames in because, and I'll show you why, because the bees will fill it out a little bit more, so it's easier to decap that way. So you get more honey per frame, but the main thing, it's easier to decap. And sometimes we have a few that you can buy spacers they're just like a metal frame or something right here on the sides that just you can put your frame right into, and that's kind of nice. Otherwise, you want to be able to space it out as evenly as you can. Okay, I'm going to show you. Let's see. Let me get one that's not. This one looks to be okay. This is a beautiful, well, no, it wasn't. It was a beautiful frame. I gouged it sometime, but this would have been a state fair kind of frame to put in there. But, you know, it's pretty and it's just really nice. But what I don't like about it, can you see that it doesn't have anything? It's the same width as the frame. Okay, and I'm going to try to decap that now, and you can see that I'm going to rest my frame on that nail, and I start up. I'll do it like I do, and I'm a left-handed person, so everything may look a little strange to you, but I just start and I go down here, and can you see that I can't grab very much there, but I can grab a little bit, and I just go down, and I like to use that board to wipe my knife off. And so, see, I can't reach it except just for that little bit. And so on that side, that's when I use this, and I would just, can you tell how it's just puncturing it and not making, of course I'm going back and forth, so it's probably making more debris, but it punctures those cappings and makes it come out so pretty good. Okay, so we'll look at the other side, and you can see that it's just pretty flat. Let's see if I can grab anything here. It's so much fun to see this white wax come off because it makes such nice wax too. See, I just can't hardly get anything here. Okay, so this is what I would do. Okay, and even with that, you can't get everything. And so I would take this scraping tool, I guess is what it's called. And I would get a sludgy capping tool. Okay. And I would just get anything that I can. But you can see you get a lot of debris. And that's just and it's fine. It's not a problem, but that just comes off into your honey. You don't have to. So you just want to make sure that you get it all. And you want to, of course, a clean place to have it. Whoops, I've got everything, and then then you just come in. We've already extracted a little bit here, but I would just put it in here. Okay, now let me get a fat one and I'll show you how much easier it is. Okay, oh, this is a heavy one too. Okay, maybe not so pretty, not like the other one, but look how much whiter it is. That's got a lot of honey. It's really heavy. Okay, so I put it down here, and already, see, you're working on that. Your hands are all sticky, and my handle's already sticky. But look how much nicer. You can just keep going down, and you don't hardly have anything. Look at that. I don't think I have to do anything for that. So I just love it when it comes out like
Once
that.
you talk about that honey draining it out, I think you have a little bit.
Okay.
It'll pretty well off.
Okay, this is really fat. And you know, this honey's been sitting in our basement for a while, so it's cooled off a little bit, but you know, it really, you can see that it's just coming out. Look at that, how it comes down. That's just great. And you just, then you have a frame. I don't have to do anything to that it's all exposed. So that's a perfect one to do that. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do just one more. I'll do it in a quick time, just so you can kind of see the idea of it. And I start at the top. I just go down.
Just a
kind of,
seesaw.
yeah. I keep my blade
Angled slightly.
yeah, angled and just along the edge of the frame. So this one had a little bit of place. I don't know if I can get it a little better. Sometimes when it does that way, I find that I'm getting my knife out like that. So, you know, you want to keep it as flat as you can, because when you start doing like that, then you miss some. Let's see if I can do this a little better. Okay.
Pretty good.
All right. And this one, this didn't came out a little bit. Okay. So you just go down like this, and you really can. I mean, I'd love to have like a commercial beekeeper have all that decapping equipment and stuff, but you really can do this pretty quickly, and it's not too bad. And so this one, you know, there's a few on the sides here that I would go like this, and you know, get maybe like up in here, but it really works pretty nicely. Oh, and then it gets stuck on okay. And since we got our new extractor, I really can do this. Tom always helps me with the lifting. I have lifted, you know, these are super sized. And you might notice we've got a deep box here, but we've got super frames in here, and that's just because we grabbed whatever.
It's because it's busted.
Yeah, we use boxes like this for this type of purpose, but this is some of the honey that we went out and got some of that early harvest. We were caught, like everybody, I think, that we had when we went on vacation early in the season, but we were caught with more frames and we had super boxes made, and so we really did go out and pull frames and replace it with drawn comb or foundation more so this year than what we had. So we, you know, you can just put them into anything. I don't think we mentioned also when we did that, we put them into the freezer. And if you put your frames in the freezer, if you have any concern about small hive beetle or wax moth, I guess, or anything like that, you put them in the freezer. I think they say 24 to 36 hours. It's going to take care of that. But it also will preserve your frames instead of sitting out for a while. You know, you don't have to extract it just right away. So that's what helps with that. So let's see. What am I supposed to talk to? Oh, I wanted to talk about my decapping tank. We had a frame, I don't know if Tom has showed you or not, we had a frame that the bottom fell out. And so I just put it in here, and I just went ahead and took that wax off, and I'm letting it drain. And see all this white wax, this is all pretty much uniform and not much different, and so that would melt. I would melt that together. But if you have wax, maybe you had some that was had been brewed frames and now you have honey in it, some of that brown wax, I would separate, if you're concerned about the quality of your wax, I would separate the cappings, the real white from the brownish, and I wouldn't put them together. And I've got some heat plate, hot plates over here that I melt too. I've been melting wax, but I don't know, I've got these wrapped. Can you see the difference in the color here? This one is just that lemon yellow and just really pretty, and that came from a lot of that white capping here. This one is darker, and you know, maybe I overheated it some. I think that makes a difference on the color, but also it just was a different kind of a wax. It had more dirt and things, and though it was filtered out, it still makes it a darker one. So if you want some of that really nice colored wax, this is what you want to do. And I won't mention too much about it, but what I would do in my decapping tank, I let this sit for several days, actually. This is the last thing that I do. I'll drain out the honey, but I will let this sit, and you probably could work it a little better to let it drain. And then I took that wax, that's what I use my paint strainers for, but I would put this wax in a paint strainer, and then I put it inside a bucket that I use for my wax and put it in water, and I wash it with the wax and get the honey out as much as I can. And then I actually, the first melting that I do, I don't use a crock pot. I like to put it in water, and I will melt it in this paint strainer, and then all the gook, and you know, this isn't going to have much gook because it's so clean, but all the gook stays in here and the wax melts out, and then you just set it off and it hardens, and then the wax comes through the top and you have that dirty water below, and then that's how I start, and then I start refiltering it too. So that's what I do for my wax. Okay, now we're gonna switch here a little bit. Tom's gonna take over, and we actually did some extracting already because it's so loud. So we're going to show you some coming out, but we're not going to extract that. But Tom wants to talk about the two different types of extractors.
Okay, I've been saving up for this. This is a joke, and we're not talking about hand crank versus electric, okay? No, actually, what I'm going to tell you about is the radial versus a tangible. This is a radial extractor. As you can see, that the top bar goes to the outside of the tank, with the bottom bar pointing towards the center. And it doesn't matter how you do this, either that way, you know, flip it over, whatever. But if this was a tangible extractor, the frames would have to lay in there like this, and depending on the rotation of the extractor, that's where you really got to think. You got to put it in there a certain way, because with our honeycomb built at an upward angle, when you turn the crank, you don't want to tear any more honeycomb than you have to. So you'll want to make sure you get it right. In other words, if the tank was spinning counterclockwise right here, if it was spinning counterclockwise, you would want I got to think now, counterclockwise, I believe you'd want it like that. Nope, the other way, this way. Yes, counterclockwise, you'd want it like this. And that way, because the wax would spin out towards the top of the frame a little better. I hope that's clear as mud.
And then you can do one side, and then you have to turn it over, right?
Right.
Okay.
Do one side, then you have to flip it in for in to do the other side. And again, your top bar would be on the same side. You have to flip it and twist it.
Okay. I think let's go ahead and show them.
Okay.
Let's see, Tom, you want to hand me that metal frame? You can see, as tight as you can get these things, these still start to drip out. So you gotta watch what you got going and what's going to be dripping out. And I want to show. You want to take that off? Okay, now this is how this will fit onto this. And this fits onto the sides, and then you want this in the middle. For some reason that is, yeah. And so see, you get, and this is I love this because this is one of those lighter honeys that's coming through. And this is some frames that we extracted prior to doing this demonstration. And you can see that I don't have a lot of wax cappings in that. So, but it's catching, I've got that 800 micron filter on the top, and it's a double strainer. So it's catching all those wax cappings. You want to make sure that's centered. I think something's making it tilt. And then it's, oh, there's one. So you can see a big old piece that's going to come out. And then it's going to filter on into the bucket through that smaller micron filter. And then you would get that bucket filled. You're going to have to watch it because you can't completely get this bucket filled. I think there's some extensions that you can buy, but we don't have any. So you have to watch because that will overflow and you can't get it completely full. And I think you're supposed to be, you're not supposed to get your extractor too full. I think that you're supposed to be letting out honey. Yeah, left open while you're extracting. I wanted to come over here and show you, this is my decapping tank too, where we had all this. This is also set up like that. Tom, can you give me that most coarse? Okay. So this is where, and again, this one drained out a little bit too. Just oh, I shouldn't have put that on the board. Give me another one. I put that on the floor.
Okay, this is
It doesn't matter. Okay, here's another coarse one. And you just set that like this. And this is what I really like about my decapping tank. And you'd be surprised how much honey comes out. And I think you can see that there's a little bit more debris, the wax cappings and stuff. I don't have a lot coming out, but that will, you do also collect your honey here. So that's what you would do as far as filtering it out of those things. And I wanted to take a minute, maybe you can hold this.
Different cameraman now.
You may have to come over here with me. I'm not always real good about this, but I have done that. You want your honey to settle, and it does, the foam and stuff does come up to the top. And this is just some honey that I had let drain out from some reason. And I wanted to show you how you can just simply take some plastic wrap like this, and you put it on the top of the bucket. And let it set probably at least a day. You want to make sure you have a plate or something because it's kind of makes a mess. And you just pull this up and probably pull it pretty quick. This honey was not real dirty, but you can see, I think that you can get some of that foam and stuff, and that will make a better product for you when you're emptying out your honey into your jars, because that does settle on the top. And so that does make a nice product. So you can do it like that. One other thing, let's set this over here. I wanted to show you. Some of you might only have a frame or two that you can extract, that you're just a new hive and you can't get a lot of honey this year, so you might not have too much. Oh, and I forgot to show you my favorite tools. You want a bunch of these some type of spatulas, and you don't want those soft spatulas. You want the hard plastic spatulas, because these little suckers can get around the bottom of the tank, or whatever you have. And so I really like this shape of a spatula, but there's use for things like this, but you do want the hard plastic ones. And if you have just a little bit of honey, a comb that you need to, maybe from the comb honey or something. You just need something that's going to collect the honey. This is a real light, and just some type of a strainer. And then you can, this has been sitting here for a while, so you can tell that it gets pretty dry. And you just, this is just crushed comb. Maybe you have a top hive and you have to do something like a top bar hive rather, and you have to do something like this. And so you just crush it and let it drain out in that manner. Okay, we also, let's see, where's my list? Oh, right here. I know I'm probably getting too involved here, and we'll try to keep mindful of the time. We did a few comb honey, and believe it or not, comb honey does sell really well in our area, at least where we're at. We go to the Peculiar and Harrisonville farmers markets, and we get asked for comb honey, and we also sell chunk honey quite a bit too, where that is where you have a chunk of comb inside a jar of honey. So we do have a few supers that we have. Now this one, we need some programs on comb honey because we are not an expert on this, and certainly I'm not. Tom's better than I am, but I have trouble getting you use a thin surplus foundation that you buy that's just wax. It's not the plastic, it's wax, and you put that sheet in there and then they build out on that. And it's a good product if you use the thin surplus, because if you just put a strip up here, they will build down the comb, but they normally build drone comb. Drone comb.
Drone comb.
So
It's just not
bigger, and so it's not as nice of a product as what you would have. And so what we did this time, I think this came from the Ducanis, that we put fishing line in here to keep that surplus. It's hard to get that surplus in there to us, and so we've already taken that out, and we didn't have real good luck. We had to pull some of it out, but I wanted to show you a little bit of how you might go about that. This is, get it flat?
Yeah, you got to get it flat so you don't push it out the bottom.
Oh, okay. Well, here. Do it on this one.
It'll break.
Okay, see, we don't have this down perfect. Okay. Parchment paper can be a friend too, or wax paper when you're doing this kind of stuff, especially when you're melting wax, because it will peel right off. I really like parchment paper. Okay. Let me get this over. Okay, so that tool, this is a tool a lot of times you can get started on comb honey by getting a kit, and they have a lot of the comb honey are, I think they're 4 3/4 or something. They're a smaller frame. We have found that we kind of like the regular super frames because it gives you a little bit more to work with, and it's not a special box. And so we just use that. So this is what we have. And in that kit usually comes this, but you can buy these individually too. And what the good thing about a tool like that, it's the perfect size. You're going to get a perfect size cut on a container. And oftentimes, you know, that's in a perfect world that you have a piece of comb that's like this. But you know, when you have a piece of comb, you're talking about a $12 product maybe, because you have a lot of honey. We often will sell like 6 ounces or something, which is not going to fill up this box, but somebody just wants to try it and they don't want to spend $12. So we do both, but this fits in here perfectly. So I'm gonna let Tom cut it. He's better. So we use this as mainly as a guide. We don't push the whole way down. Now this isn't state fair quality, because there's certain ways that you can cut it that you don't want a lot of that comb and stuff. But you know, our purpose, we're just wanting to use it for selling it at the farmer's market, and for us it's a good product. So he puts it on there, and so you've got a nice cut comb that needs to drain now. So that needs to drain probably at least 24 hours. And then you just make sure that everything's like it is, it's drained out. And then you just take a spatula and you put it in your container. And so it's really nice. Now, if you put cut comb, what you can do with some of these pieces, if you like in this end, you might have a 2 or 3 inch piece that's left over. And so that's what you could put into your chunk honey. And if you do that, what you want to make sure is that you put the same kind of honey. So you can see that this is a real light honey. So you would want to fill a jar with a real light honey too, the same kind. So that's just tips that I've heard say. So that just makes it good. And they do sell quite a bit with the farmers market too. Okay, I'm lost. Let me see what were we going to talk about. I'll hurry because I'm sure we're getting kind of overtime. Okay, I want to show you how I pour honey from a bucket. Okay, Tom, you got to take over.
Oh, I'm still chunk honey. I'm
He's
sorry.
still doing that. It's kind of fun.
Gonna get $50 out of that frame,
Yeah.
folks.
I need that right here. That bucket, please.
Oh, that's kind of heavy.
Yeah. Okay. This, as I said, we use buckets to pour, and our final bucket, we use the buckets without the spout for when we're extracting and use it. But when I pour, of course, you got to have a spout. And sometimes, you know, if I have to pour this out and it's crystallized too. And if it's not too crystallized, I can still pour. But I have found what works for me, and I've got a chair I usually sit at, that Tom can get this bucket for me. This 5 gallons of honey is pretty heavy, but he can get this set on the counter for me, and I get it here. And I have discovered that if I use my drawer here, that I can, and I got the little piece of plastic here, that I can put my jars underneath there and pour pretty easily. And so I do use a combination of glass and plastic. I've had a lot of people ask me for glass, and I've had a lot of people, oh, they want a squeeze bottle too. So I do a combination. I will glass jars. I like the Mason glass jars, not just any old mayonnaise jar. I don't like to do that. But Mason jars, you know, if you run into a supply of Mason jars, if you can get it cleaned up, it's not cloudy, hasn't been used for canning or something like that too much, in your dishwasher, you can put it through a sanitizing cycle that goes for about 4 hours, you know, real hot heat and things, that you could use that. So this is what I use, canning jars. And so I get my little jar like here, and then, oh, this is
Wish you had them pliers.
I do have those pliers. I can't get that done, and I'm probably going to break these off one day.
No, you're not.
I think I'm not supposed to get just one side, but probably both sides. I don't know.
You're good.
And it comes out pretty good. Now, when you start filling out the bucket, it might slow down a little bit. So you just need to use that other tool and lift up the lid, and it lets some air in. Yeah, see how it will go faster then? And so I just let it go to the rim, about where it starts the continuous thread of like that, and I'll shut it off. And some of these are better than others. I put these lids on just so I can have them for this purpose. And then I'll just start again. And I even fill I have some 2-ounce little bears, and I have found that it's not too hard. If you want just, you know, to slow it down, you just come down like this. And you can control it pretty good. Sometimes I've had it drip on this side. You need to tighten those screws up. That's kind of a pain. But again, I'm usually sitting down when I do this, and then I will just fill it to that portion, and I tie it off. Okay, and so I have got a couple of jars of honey. And then it's good to have a supply. You need a lot of supply of rags and things like that. And you want to make sure that it's clean, not sticky. What I do after I pour, like, I make sure that it's clean around this edge. And you want to feel, especially in the glass jars, make sure there's no nicks or anything like that, that I will feel are clean, these edge, like this. And then I'm kind of particular, I don't want it wet. And so I will make sure it's dried off. And I really like the look of these kind of lids rather than canning jar lids, but though I do sell in canning jar lids, but my favorite, and you know, sometimes your supply is that you can buy these white lids and they have these seal things that's on here. And I usually use regular mouth jars too, though I may use some wide mouth. And I'll just seal it like this and make that tight, and that's going to seal. Now, if this is crystallized in any way or pretty dirty or maybe something like that, I have found a wonderful secret, especially if you're working into a farmer's market, that crystallization is a real problem if you're trying to do a big amount of honey at one time. And so when I first started, I had poured them in the jars and I labeled them and I had them ready to go, and I just set them on the counter. And all I had was a bunch of labeled jars that was crystallized. And what a problem, because those labels get messed up. And so what I have learned to do is that I will, especially in the wintertime, because it's nice to have a supply of honey that's already poured, because you will have people asking you all the time. I will have a supply of honey that's poured. I might have shrink wrapped it or whatever, but I will have it poured, and I fill up my freezer as much as I can, and that will keep it pretty much like this. Now it does crystallize. So here's this same jar that is crystallized, and I've got to do something. I even had, I'd supply a store up at Pleasant Hill, and she called me, this honey is really crystallized and it's not going to sell too good, this cloudy. And so I picked it up and traded it out. And another great secret I found out from a member, and that's the beauty of having this club, is because you find out these secrets, is that, of course, you can put this in hot water and but when you got a big supply of it and you need to get to the market, you got crystallized honey, you can take these crystallized bottles that aren't labeled and put them on the top shelf of your dishwasher, and no soap, of course, or anything, and put it on a low cycle. My cycle will do like, I think it's like 50 minutes or something like that. And I'll put it in there, and generally it's one time and I get a bottle of honey like this. And it was a lifesaver to me. It was a whole new ball game for me when I figured out that I could do that. I have done it with the labels on, but I will take plastic wrap and wrap it up, and it doesn't do too badly like that. I do like to, let's get in here. I do like to shrink wrap mine when it's available to me. And so you can buy just these different shrink wraps. I will do this. They're pretty nice to do. And you just put it on the top of the lid like this. This is going to be loud, but I'm going to show you. I did a terrible job with that one. I'm going to cut that one off. Do it again. And what I did is I let it creep up like this. And so you need to keep it down a little. Let's see if I can get it down. Okay, can you see what a nicer product that is? I'm not satisfied with that one, but see what a nice product that is. I just think that gives you a professional look when I'm at the farmer's market. I like to present my honey like that. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I go about labeling. I would suggest if you're have a lot of honey going to sell, it doesn't have to be the market, but whatever, that I would decide on sizes and jars and labels and stick with it. When you have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of that, it's kind of a pain. And so I stick with a 3-pound size, a 1.5 pound size, 1 pound size, 12-ounce size, 2-ounce size, and then we do some other products, but those are the sizes that I do. And another mistake that I did is that I really like these labels. They're nice. And I thought, oh boy, I'm going to be smart and save some time, and I'm going to save some money, because I got labels like this and I just left in the net weight blank. And I would just fill them out for the whatever size. Well, that takes a lot of time. And I found out that that is a pain too. So I'm not going to do that anymore. And so what I like, I have been working, I have labels for each size that I sell. Now, on the newsletter, we had a good article, I think from the Missouri State Beekeepers, that said what you need on your label. You need to know what the product is, honey. You need to know your name and where you're at. We're a peculiar. Now, in our situation, our bees are not in peculiar, so we have to talk about that. You are, when you're at the markets, you are an educator of people. And so we have to say our bees are primarily at Drexel, but we have some, you know, here or that, but they're nowhere and they're peculiar. That's just our address. You want your contact information, and then you need to have your net weight, and you have to have pounds and, or pounds, ounces, and grams on that. And I think for a discussion another time, you know, the weight is like an ounce. An ounce of honey is like an ounce and a half
27,
or something.
24 gallons.
Anyway, that was all in the newsletter. So I've got that for each one. And I've gone through different labels. The ones that I have settled on is that I always put the warning label on about the infant botulism and under 1 year of age. And I'll put that, I'll show you what I do for this size. I put this, I like the words facing the front, and so I'll put that right there. Okay, and this is 1.5 pounds, and so I get my 1.5 pound label. And a lot of the jars have a little nice spot for it. Of course, you want your jars to be clean and not sticky. That's a big thing. And so I get my label like that. And then the other thing that I do is that I always give them a label about crystallization and what to do if it crystallizes. And so I will stick that on the back. This is how I do it. And sometimes I get crooked, but you do the best you can. I do a label. I am part of the Missouri Grown group with the state of Missouri, so I have a label I will put on there sometimes. On the mason jars, the glass jars, I think it's kind of hard to put any labels on this because this jars already has an imprint on it, and so I'll do like a hang tag, and I'll put my labels on that. The only thing that I think I might add for as far as selling it is that, you know, I think there's some good things about having some variety on selling your honey. You know, we've got a product that is people usually buy. They don't come and buy it every week. And so if you've got something maybe new and interesting, that they might keep coming by your booth, you know, or something like that. So this year we did this better this year than ever. We had some fall honey that we had. And of course, that's real dark, and you get to talk about that. And then most of our honey is this amber color that we had that, and you can see the different shades. And then we had, which was real fun, was this light color honey, the white honey. And so it's, you know, there's a real, and people will ask you what the difference is. And so you get to talk about your honey. You get to you know, do different things. It's good to have something to bring them in. I know some of us are experts at creamed honey, and I make creamed honey. I've got my little wine cooler here, and I make some, but you know, I do dabble in it with that. So sometimes have some cream honey. We do some comb honey. They'll come back and check. We like to have the honey sticks. We always tell them that's not our honey, but we like to have the honey sticks because that draws people to us. And so
We also mail honey sometimes.
yeah, we mail something. We're finding that we can do in a flat rate box. You can do 2 1 pounds and 3 12 ounces for like $8.30, I think is what it is. So I use, you know, if you're set up, you can get set up just selling honey, just word of mouth. If you want to do a farmer's market, basically you need a table and your honey, and usually you have to have a canopy. And each market might have some fees. Ours are, one does and one doesn't. You might have to provide a personal liability, general liability policy. If you get on up into the city, you probably will. You know, cash, a lot of people still use cash. And so you think about when you're pricing your honey, you know, if you sell it for a pound for $7, $8, $9, you know, you're going to make change. You need a lot of ones, you know, you got to be prepared like that. And we use Square. So a lot of people will use, you know, a payment like that. And if you have that, you might make a sale where you wouldn't otherwise. They'll ask if you have it. So unless you think of something else, Tom, I think we talked a long time. So I think that's all we have. You still there?
Goodness, thank you so much for that presentation. That was a ton of great information. I loved all of the sort of lessons learned, and I think everybody's benefiting from seeing this kind of semi-low tech way of extracting and anybody can do it pretty much. And if you've got a hand crank extractor, or you know, one thing that I would like to add to what Tom and Janice have said today is for the new beekeepers specifically, everything that we've learned today is spot on, fantastic, but provided that you use sanitary methods, there's pretty much no way to get this wrong. You can cut and crush, you can use a hot knife or a serrated knife that you get from the pawn shop. You can buy every single toy that you want and run a real professional system. There's no way to really do this wrong, but the moisture content is critical. You have to get that right. And so whether you borrow the club's refractometer or you buy your own, the moisture content is the most important step in this whole process. And then outside of that, just have a good time and enjoy your harvest.
Yes.
One thing, Janice, that someone mentioned here in the group is there's a comment here that says, from Miss Natalie, saying, I wanted to say hello and thank you to this presenter. I met her last year at Harrisonville Farmers Market, and she told me how to sign up my BKYS for an apprenticeship. I'm so grateful. We want to visit you and your bees. So.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do always promote. Of course, we're in Cass County, and I'll say, well, we were already involved with Midwestern, so we always push Midwestern. But yes, we do that a lot. Well, hello. Was it Natalie? Is that who it was?
Yes.
Pardon? Okay. Hello.
Does anybody else have any questions for the good of the group they'd like to type into the chat? We can relate back to Tom and Janice. Yes.
Janice, where do you buy your labels?
I think just Man Lake. Labels are, you know, you have to, there's probably a better place to do it. I've tried Vista print too, but I don't find that they're any cheaper. And labels are just a kind of an expensive part of it, but Man Lake is what I've done. And I really like the people that have the clear labels and things like that, but I'm always a day late and $1 short. And so I never have time to really do that nicely, but so I've just done it at Man Lake.
Okay. Janice, we're seeing a lot of thank yous in the group. Everybody's really thanking. And I just love the lessons learned. I really liked what you said about separating your wax into the good bad wax before you start melting it down. That's a great
Yes.
I feel like everybody's getting many years of experience in this one presentation.
Yes. Well, we've done, if there's something to go wrong, we've done it.
Great job, Janice. One thing I ran across this week is being able to buy the little 12-ounce bears. There's been such a run on that plastic for all the hand sanitizers that the bears are in short supply. I went to buy some this week from Robert Hughes, and he's completely out.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. If you can plan ahead, with all that, any beekeeping supplies, planning ahead, doing your things in the winter really pays off.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Anything else you need to add, Eric?
No, I think that was great. I think if Janice has nothing more to add, I just want to say thank you to both of you.
Carrie had a question about when's the best time to extract. A lot of people are extracting now. You probably, I think you could extract anytime pull your supers off anytime from now to say September, probably Labor Day. And if she can't extract them, pulling your supers off and extracting can be two different processes. If she can't extract right away, that's when she could put them in the freezer.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We'll let everybody get back to their Sunday. The temperature seems to be cooling off and it's getting kind of nice outside. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Enjoy your bees. And thanks to all for coming out.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Hopefully maybe face-to-face next time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
We were